The chimes of Big Ben rang out before spokesmen from each of the three main political parties gave their views on the European election results. John Major was refusing to comment on his future. The Conservative Party's explanation for its poor showing was that only 36% of the country had bothered to go to the polls. Diana felt guilty. She was among the 64% who had failed to register their vote. The newscaster moved on to say that the situation in Bosnia remained desperate and that the UN was threatening dire consequences if Radovan Karadzic and the Serbs didn't come to an agreement with the other warring parties. Diana's mind began to drift. Such a threat was hardly news any longer. She suspected that if she turned on the radio in a year's time, they would probably be repeating it word for word. As her car crawled round Russell Square, she began to think about the weekend ahead. It had been over a year since John had told her that he had met another woman and wanted a divorce. She still wondered why, after 7 years of marriage, she hadn't been more shocked, or at least angry, at his betrayal. Since her appointment as a director, she had to admit they had spent less and less time together, and perhaps she had become anaesthetised by the fact that a third of the married couples in Britain were now divorced or separated. Her parents had been unable to hide their disappointment, but then they had been married for 42 years. The divorce had been amicable enough, as John, who earned less than she did, one of their problems, perhaps, had given in to most of her demands. She had kept the flat in Putney, the Audi estate, and the children, to whom John was allowed access 1 weekend in 4. He would have picked them up from school earlier that afternoon, and, as usual, he'd return them to the flat in Putney around 7 on Sunday evening. Diana would go to almost any lengths to avoid being left on her own in Putney when they weren't around. And, although she regularly grumbled about being landed with the responsibility of bringing up 2 children without a father, she missed them desperately the moment they were out of sight. She hadn't taken a lover, and she didn't sleep around. None of the senior staff at the office had ever gone further than asking her out to lunch, perhaps because only 3 of them were unmarried, and not without reason. The one person she might have considered having a relationship with had made it abundantly clear that he only wanted to spend the night with her, not the days. In any case, Diana had decided long ago that if she was to be taken seriously as the company's first woman director, an office affair, however casual or short-lived, could only end in tears. Men are so vain, she thought. A woman only had to make one mistake and she was immediately labelled as promiscuous. Then every other man on the premises either smirks behind your back or treats your thigh as an extension of the arm on his chair. Diana groaned as she came to a halt at yet another red light. In 20 minutes, she hadn't covered more than a couple of miles. She opened the glove box on the passenger side and fumbled in the dark for a cassette. She found one and pressed it into the slot, hoping it would be Pavarotti, only to be greeted by the strident tones of Gloria Gaynor assuring her, "I will survive." She smiled and thought about Daniel as the light changed to green. She and Daniel had read economics at Bristol University in the early 1980s, friends but never lovers. Then Daniel met Rachel, who had come up a year after them, and from that moment he had never looked at another woman. They married the day he graduated, and after they returned from their honeymoon, Daniel took over the management of his father's farm in Bedfordshire. 3 children had followed in quick succession, and Diana had been proud when she was asked to be godmother to Sophie, the eldest. Daniel and Rachel had now been married for 12 years, and Diana felt confident that they wouldn't be disappointed.